very important topic. And right now, we will screen another video of Andrew Sullivan, who is the president and CEO of Internet Society, ISOC, which is a non-for-profit organization that has many chapters. As a matter of fact, I'm a member of the Argentine chapter. There are chapters in many countries. Andrew sends his greetings. He couldn't be online because he had some other um, meetings. So we're going to screen his video and later we'll start with infrastructure.
Hello, I'm Andrew Sullivan, President and CEO of the Internet Society. Many thanks to the organizers, particularly Olga and Adrian, for inviting me to this 14th South School on Internet Governance. Congratulations and thanks for your participation in this important school. Congratulations because the school is well recognized, and thanks because the issues facing the Internet seem to get more complicated every year. So we need well-informed people like you to help keep the Internet for everyone. That is our vision at the Internet Society, that the Internet is for everyone. In a way, it has to be. Because the Internet is really just the sum of all the constituent networks that connect to the Internet, it needs to be open. A closed system, not open to everyone, would be a network, all right, but it wouldn't be the Internet. And this fact is highly relevant to the theme this year, digital transformation in a global changing environment. Certainly, the environment in which the Internet finds itself is changing. Especially in the first part of its life, the Internet was made of many networks and service operators that interoperated mostly using open protocols. In that same period, many of the people using the Internet were also those building it, which meant that developments were often aligned with what the users wanted. As governance mechanisms emerged, they addressed often explicitly this basic nature of the Internet by embracing the awkward term multi-stakeholderism. The reason was pretty simple. The Internet is a network of networks of other networks and so on, which means that control in the Internet is necessarily distributed. In a distributed system, there is no center of control because there is no center. Naturally, then, it was necessary to get all the participants, the people with a stake, involved in order to make progress on how to govern the unique and surprising system that emerged from their participation. Also, for much of the life of the Internet, it was regarded as an obviously good thing. The benefits to those connected were plain, and with few exceptions, the major policy questions involved how to get people connected to the Internet. The environment has changed. The diversity of experiences, of services, of operators, and networks that we saw in the early Internet, and especially in the early commercial period, has reduced. Some say that the economic model that supported early Internet commercialization was not sustainable, and so consolidation was inevitable. But for whatever reasons, in the place of a multitude of little operators, today tech giants have emerged. They offer big, centralized platforms and mostly deal with the problem of new competitors by buying those competitors. There is also an argument to be made that it is not merely economic reality on the Internet, but rather a general trend of corporate consolidation and control that happened over the same period. Again, whatever the reason, the effect is that the diversity of opinion that was early reflected in multi-stakeholder forms of governance has increasingly come to seem like a few predictable voices defending their corporate privilege against the interests of everyone else. Having emerged in a period of Internet exceptionalism, some of these corporations often appear to act as though what they do must be correct by definition, since it is technology. They seem slightly bewildered by social backlash, even as they attempt to confront and manage that backlash. The user population, meanwhile, has also changed a lot. Once it was mostly enthusiasts used to working problems themselves, because the Internet was a new, socially marginal phenomenon, but those days are gone. If anyone doubted prior to the COVID-19 pandemic that the Internet was central to many societies, nobody can seriously take that position today. Unlike the old days, The users of the internet include everyone, from the technically sophisticated to those who are bored by technology. In that sense, the internet really is for everyone, but everyone is a big word, even in a single society, never mind in every society on Earth. It was not easy to make sure the diversity of experiences among the user population of the early internet could be captured in the governance models that emerged in the 1990s and early 2000s. Making sure to hear the stake of everyone on Earth is a much harder problem. Now, there are, of course, good reasons the internet has become so important. Because it is such an easy, fast, and inexpensive conduit of information, it is ideally suited to the distribution of mass interest information and news, or to the connection of communities who share a common interest, but who might be widely distributed geographically. It allows us to connect with loved ones when we are forced into isolation by health emergencies, but it also allows employment and commerce without everyone gathering in a single place. The kind of video conferencing many of us do every day using the internet was total science fiction when I was growing up, and despite appearances, I'm not that old. If nothing else, the world has an urgent need to address the carbon footprint of transportation, and the communication afforded by the internet must inevitably be part of that. Still, the internet faces a lot of challenges. That the internet is obviously a good thing is no longer true to far too many people. The rise of the internet has happened at the same time as many social changes. And for some people, that social change is not just a bad thing, but also the internet's fault. Perhaps more importantly, the internet brings not only social but also economic changes that truly do threaten existing social and economic interests. To pick an obvious example, the easy flow of information on the internet threatens those who used to control that information flow. Owning a news media company used to be a path to wealth. Now, those companies struggle. Political spokespeople used to need to convince just the press pool that a topic was or was not worth covering. Now they must convince the whole world. And all of these issues arise before we face the fact that easy lies seem to spread faster on the internet than uncomfortable truths. Meanwhile, the stance of many governments after a long period of laissez-faire policies is much more assertive. Many of them appear to be asking why the internet is not under their sovereign control, and they are enacting laws to put it there. Such laws themselves tend to fracture the internet. But the weird thing is, the changing environment seems to be leading to the recycling of many old, unwise ideas. For those of us familiar with the internet governance debates of the 1990s, far too many proposals seem like Back to the Future. Debates about encryption are nearly identical to those of 30 years ago. The idea that each country should have an independent, country-bounded network is an idea that was investigated and rejected even before the internet really got started. The notion that the low-level infrastructure of the network ought to provide content and security controls so that bad stuff can't appear to users is a recurring and persistent idea, but it is not one that gets better with age. And so I come back to why I am thankful that you are here. The issues facing the internet are real and they are important. They are also much deeper than public debate usually allows. We need people deeply invested in the value of the internet and also schooled in the technical and policy histories in order to confront these issues. Just a couple of examples will suffice. To begin with, concentration and consolidation on the internet undeniably create threats to it. A network of networks controlled by a handful of giant corporations is not a lot better and may be worse than a single network controlled by only one such corporation. Yet consolidation and concentration allow a scale of service that is historically unusual. The ability of your favorite video conferencing system to handle the demand at the onset of COVID-19 lockdowns is a great example. A decade ago, it all would have fallen apart because the hardware and network connections that would have been needed to handle such increases would have taken weeks or months to arrive. Instead, most internet services today depend on the cloud, and that means depending on a handful of truly giant service providers who are buying and deploying new hardware and network infrastructure every day, no matter what happens. Cloud providers know that there will be demand for the hardware and network capacity they are building. They just don't know who will use it. But this approach will only work for perhaps tens of providers. If several thousand providers tried to do this, most of them would go bankrupt quickly. Also, such corporations need to have an international presence, with data centers in many different jurisdictions, in order both to provide low latency service to users everywhere, but also to insulate the service from outages in any given country, region, or network area. Yet public policy discussions these days too often ignore these technical considerations for internet policy. They try to insist on data localization, even when it would be more dangerous than distributing data. They try to build national cloud services when such services will only make the entire idea of the cloud more fragile. We need governance professionals who understand these matters and who can help keep the internet in internet governance. Or let us consider the idea of using domain names and internet protocol or IP addresses and putting various blocks in the system to prevent certain undesirable content from circulating. This idea, which was popular some time ago and gradually fell out of favor, has come back. Lawmakers have been persuaded more than once that we should not block internet sites by interfering with the domain name system entries for those sites or the IP address allocations for those sites. This is because that kind of blocking has well understood negative consequences for other sites on the internet, which might accidentally share their internet presence with the site hosting sanctioned content. The basic infrastructure of the internet is shared, and trying to warp it to stamp out some undesirable content is a good way to break the internet completely. Unfortunately, too many governments and public officials no longer remember that, especially if they are young enough. Perhaps they never knew it. This is, again, why we need experts in internet governance, like you, to bring these considerations to the public policy debates of our age. Now, I would not be doing my job as Internet Society CEO if I didn't note here that the Internet Society offers further opportunities to help you in developing this expertise. If you are not already a member, I hope you will join us and join your local chapter as well to carry forward our goals to ensure the internet is open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy. We offer fellowship programs and training intended to ensure that those who share these goals are equipped with the tools they need to carry them forward. But no matter whether you join our membership, my hope is that this school of internet governance will help you to advocate for the internet. It is under threat as it has never been. We need allies who can see why it is so important that the internet is for everyone. Thank you very much.
He brings to the table something more dramatic because of fake news, the impact of many governments, and the issue of consolidation. If you're interested in the economy related to the internet, the large corporations, I don't know if you have followed this idea, but many corporations consolidate and they compare or they merge with each other. There are increasingly larger companies, and we are going to see the impact on the internet evolution. And then Andrew brings to the board something about the governments, the mirror effect. What internet shows is what happens in society, he says. So he draws an analogy with a mirror that reflects on what happens on society. Internet is not to blame, however, it has an impact. And sometimes you have interruption in the service. This is going to be posted on YouTube.